Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 272 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on August 19th, 2025. How are all you folks doing on this wonderful day? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I taught a course all day today, so if my voice gets a bit strained, I apologize for that in advance. It seems to be holding up pretty well right now, so I'm going to knock on wood on that one. It should be okay. Two primary topics to go through with you today. First, we're going to dig into the technical talk for the CAT KK on the MK18. That small silencer was evaluated in the paper published last week. I know a lot of you saw that. If you haven't, I encourage you to go check that out. That was very interesting. Secondly, I want to share my personal experience with shooting a bunch of rounds through the 300 Blackout MCX. Yeah, I actually took a short break this past weekend, and I did not work. It was family time and shooting time, and boy, did I make up for lost time on the shooting part. I shot about 1,000 rounds through that gun, suppressed. So I think I'm fairly well qualified to talk to you about it now, give us some opinions. So, and I think it might help some people that have that system or are maybe thinking about that system. I have some practical feedback for you I want to share. Okay, so we'll get on with the show now. If you've been here before, welcome back. So glad to have you. If you're new to the podcast, oh gosh, welcome. Glad you could make it. We're going to talk about silencers. It's going to be so great. One thing that you really need to know is that there are timestamps, no matter where you're listening. So if that's YouTube, if that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast, whenever you're listening to this, there are timestamps so you can skip ahead. Okay? You can skip to wherever you would like. And I'm telling you that because I'm about to read some ads, okay? But these ads are important because they're talking about companies that believe in the effort that we're doing here at Pew Science, and they've supported this for a long time, and that's really, really great. And the first one is Legion Athletics. Yeah, when I'm not shooting guns and working two jobs, I like to lift weights. And Legion Athletics helps me with that, and they can help you too. Because nothing you do, exercise, sports, or anything is worth doing without consistency. You have to do things all the time if you want to be good at them. I found that is the case. They have whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, which is incredibly important, I feel like, for strength sports and in general. Visit legionathletics.com. There's a link in the show notes. They have upgraded our coupon code, the code word PewScience. Use that every time you get buy one, get one, 50% off of your entire shopping cart. The first time you use it, and then subsequent times you'll get 20% cash back every time you use it in the form of points. And so if you're like me and you buy supplements for the long term, like regularly, that's a no-brainer, man. It's going to actually save you quite a bit of money. And it helps the show too, okay? Get strong. It's important. The episode is also brought to you by Silencer Shop. Boy, can Silencer Shop help you if you're a small dealer. And boy, if you're a consumer and you don't want to think about anything and you just want to use their kiosk and do your fingerprints and photos electronically, I mean, it's a no-brainer, guys. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly a silencer ownership simplified. Top Gun Range is a Silencer Shop dealer out of Houston. They are really, really good people. They the 15-lane indoor shooting range. And what's really cool, not only do they sell silencers and guns and all that good stuff, you can actually try them out there at their range. You can rent a silencer on a gun and shoot it suppressed, and then you can just buy it right there from Kyle and his crew. They're really great. They're actually gun guys. They're real silencer guys. They don't just, kind of briefly mention them. They are silencer enthusiasts, and that is so important when you're speaking with a dealer. Okay, so topgunrange.com, really, really cool. If you're in the Houston area, go check them out. Now, Capital Armory is another one that sponsors us, and I tell you what, speaking of silencer enthusiasts, oh man, they may be a big dealer, but they have their roots in wanting to improve the process that they were going through themselves. They are at their core NFA junkies. They are silencer people. The people that work at Capital Armory have an appreciation for high-performing silencers, and that is very congruent with us here at Pew Science. We can't get enough of the Performance Gauntlet, and Capital Armory they're cut from the same cloth. What's really cool is if you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal, you can literally order a silencer from Capital Armory and have it delivered to your house, which is completely awesome. If you're like me, I work 2 jobs, I got a family, I don't have a lot of time to go to gun stores and mess around with that. Having a silencer shipped directly to your door would be right up my alley if I was a consumer. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. So Capital Armory, check them out, capitalarmory.com, all that good stuff. You can Google. You know what's going on. Finally, podcast is brought to you by Pew Science, the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director. And in the interest of public education, we continue to do this. I mean, this is episode 272, right? Right? Did I butcher that? Is it 272? Yeah, 272. That's crazy. Continue to do this pretty much every week for the most part for years now. Our goal is to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. We actually don't just test silencers. We conduct in-depth research on them, and we fit them into our research pedigree. It's all cataloged in Section 6 of the Silencer Sound Standard. There are 7 sections on our website. We have the suppression rating, which is very important. It's the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms. We distill the entire history of the gunshots from before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone, all the mechanical operation is ceased. We record the entire event, so we analyze the entire thing. You really are not going to get this anywhere publicly in the world other than Pew Science. We've looked. We can't find anything as complete, in-depth, and as high a quality as what we do. And that's why we actually use it ourselves. All the silencers that we shoot personally, all of our Pew Science folks, we use the data. And you don't have to use it, but you can, because it's available 24/7 to the public at pewscience.com. That's right. And you can support the podcast if you like. That would be cool. You can support Pew Science itself and all the testing that we do for you by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. That'd be cool. There's also, you can make one-time donations, as little or as much as you want to donate. It's awesome. You can do that on the podcast page, on the review page, wherever you want. And you know what? You don't have to give any money at all. You can totally just rate the podcast on your favorite provider. Give it a good old 5-star, whatever you like and subscribe, or whatever you want to do on YouTube or Spotify, Facebook, whatever you do. Just let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome, and we'll continue to normalize the use of suppressed small arms. Okay, cool. All right, again, 2 topics today. We'll hit Sound Signature Review 6197. That was the Cat KK on the Mark 18. And we have several subtopics there. And then we'll hit topic 2. We'll talk about the SIG MCX and its variants and recreational use and what to do, what not to do, and how hot does it get, all that good stuff, okay? All right, let's move into topic 1 at a time of 8 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay, Sound Signature Review 6197, the Combat Application Technologies Cat KK on the 10.3-inch 5.56 Mark 18. Small silencer, performance that was fairly surprising to us, and therefore probably also to you. We've seen these hybrid design advanced silencers. I like that term. And they're continuing to push the envelope. So I would like to go through this report that we published last week. We'll do so technically so you can have more information, and maybe that will supplement the knowledge that you have gained by reading it or hearing about it. And what I would like to do is I'll split this talk into 3 pieces at least. First, we'll go intro and physical characteristics now, and then we'll go design and system performance and mount considerations in the next one, and then we'll go performance extrapolation, okay? Because I know a lot of you have been thinking about that. So we'll talk about intro and physical characteristics. And so I have the silencer in front of me, this little guy. This little guy, I tell you what. Silencers are shrinking. It's not a bad thing. If we can get similar or even better performance out of smaller design envelopes, I think that's a win for everybody. And you use less material, you have less weight, your system length decreases, It's pretty much, it can be a win-win in a lot of cases. Now, you're fighting two potential drawbacks, right? The first is thermal mass. No matter what, if you have less silencer, you're going to have less time before it gets really hot. Yes? That's a given in general. That's the way physics giveth and taketh away. You cannot get away from that reality. The other thing is real performance. I mean, there are of course limits. So so for this hypothetical case we're speaking about, we're saying you're not trading that off here in this hypothetical case, right? In other words, like what we're saying here in this hypothetical case, we're saying that the performance is good enough for what you're doing with it. So maybe you're not trading that off. Maybe it's just one thing. Maybe it's just the thermal mass drawback. I don't know. When you look at the Cat KK, we're seeing a size that we're not used to seeing this from a normal mainstream 556 silencer. It's just not something you see a lot. And similarly, you could say that about the 4 Monarch Recce, the 4 systems, the front of rifle systems, that Recce silencer that we looked at recently a few weeks back. You can say a similar thing about that. I keep going back to that Recce in these talks because it was so recent, but also because I do believe it belongs in the conversation. Now, the Cat KK is even shorter. It's 4.75 inches total with the mount, and it's 4.5 inches long, but it does grow a 1/4 inch because the wrench flats on the back of the mount still shorter than the Recce, which is crazy. I know the Recce is like 5.1 with the mount, right? This thing's 4.75 with the mount. It's actually 4.5 without the mount. You get that 1/4 inch extra because the wrench flats on the back of that mount. And honestly, this personal opinion, I think having those wrench flats is good. But you know what? If for some reason they didn't have them, I'd probably be fine with it since it's a left-hand thread into the silencers. So you're never going to get the mount stuck in the silencer because you can just use a strap wrench on the silencer if the mount is attached to the barrel, right? Because you would just do a righty-tighty, which would actually be righty-loosey on the silencer, and the mount would be going righty-tighty to the barrel. So you would be tightening the mount to the barrel as you are loosening the silencer for the mount, you see? So it would be no problem. So you really don't need wrench flats in that way. But using a real wrench can be nice. And so, wrench flats on the mount are fine, of course. Small price to pay, of a 1/4 inch increase in length. Who cares when you're this small? It's not a huge deal, but I'm just saying it's interesting that we're getting to that point. Like I said, I think I used the analogy last episode when we were talking about competition, like as racing cars, like, oh man, you're taking out the back seats now to get lighter. We're getting there, man. This competition is getting the Formula One style in this. So, okay, this Cat KK, you're 1.6 inches in diameter, 4.75 inches long with the mount, from barrel shoulder to distal end of silencer. 12.8 ounces. So you add 2.4 ounces more for the mount, then you get a total of 15.2 ounces for the whole thing. So you're less than a pound for this little Inconel silencer, which, okay, seems reasonable. Now we're gonna get to the mount talk in a later subtopic here, but while we're here and talking about this, you need to know that the first expansion chamber of the silencer is a little shallow. So I'm talking about sometimes people call that the blast chamber. That blast chamber is a little bit shallow, or at least shallower than, the typical Cat rifle silencers are. And so other mounts, besides the one that comes with the silencer, this little nano mount, other mounts will not fit into this silencer. Okay, they will hit the first reflector. They will hit that blast baffle. So it comes with a nano mount that does fit in the silencer, of course, but it also does a little something with the blast loads to benefit performance. And so the mount screws directly into the rear of the silencer, and it is left-hand threaded, like I was saying. There is no universal hub back end in this silencer. This means the mount interface is monolithic with the body of the silencer. Okay, the muzzle device is the only other piece you have. You feel me? So on the distal end, where the blast loads and the bullet come out of the silencer, you have 4 sets of 90-degree offset vents. Okay, there's actually 2 vents per 90-degree offset for a total of 8 vents. They are actually similar to the ones you see in the flow module of the 300 blackout rat silencer from CAT. Just trivia for you, it's not the same technology really, but it's the same vent structure on the outside in a way. The end of the silencer is beveled in a cross pattern. I'm really not sure if that's for weight savings or aesthetics or if it's functional at all for flash outside the silencer. I don't know. I don't know. But it does look kind of interesting to me. Back at the proximal end, that's where the mount interface is. You have simple ribbing in the 3D print to get a grip on it. That's just to help you grip as you tighten and loosen the silencer off of the mount. Most CAT silencers have that rectangular pattern ribbon on the back just for that. That's all that is. As far as colors, I think black standard. I do see people comment on social media about wanting different colors, and I don't know about that at all. That is not a question for us. That is definitely a question for the manufacturer. I'd go ask CAT. I have no idea about the colors about this thing. And that's really all there is about the exterior physical characteristics of the silencer. It's really small. Fits in your hand. It's kind of, when you hold the thing, it really does feel small in your hand. This is a small object. It actually, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a smaller 5.56 Mini 2 from Surefire. The first time you pick up a Mini 2, you're like, oh my God, this is so small. This is smaller than that. So, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the internal characteristics, and I think that needs to go along with performance. So I'm going to combine those things. Okay, we'll do that in subtopic B at a time of 17 minutes and 11 seconds. Okay, one moment. Okay, subtopic B. So I want to talk about design, system performance, and the mount. I think we can talk about this together. I think it'll fit well. So this will be a whole all-encompassing main subtopic, and then we can go a little bit weird at the third one. So, okay, and this is interesting because, you ever watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that movie with Rick Moranis back in the day? Very famous movie. Well, this is not like that, but it's... Have you ever seen this thing? It's totally not that. No, it's similar. This is just really a smaller version of what you see with other surge bypass silencers from CAT. Now, just because it's short doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of the same features. Great annular utilization with early venting out of that blast chamber. Really, really cool thing they did there. Really good pressure staging in the stack. Really advanced distal vent array. Someone was asking me about flash suppression performance, and I told them I don't know. I haven't shot it in low light yet. I'll let you know when we do that. But we can talk about that a little bit later. I have some thoughts. Now, it kind of brings us to the mount, though. This is important to talk about. So, good to get it out of the way. Right now, I want to tell you we are still learning about the AI Nano mount and its influence in the CAT silencer models. CAT has their own R&D going on. That's their business. Here at Pew Science, we've done several experiments with various things, and you'll see what you see. The first thing you see is in this report where the Nano was used, although you did see it in the CAT rat too, didn't you? But you see this where the Nano was used, and that is because you have to use it with this silencer. Like we were saying before, the other mounts will not fit. Now, physically, what we at Pew Science think the Nano might be doing is actually two different things. We think it is radially jetting, and it is also facilitating different timing of the jet expansion. So, do we know those two things 100%? Well, we know for a fact that the first one, the radial jetting is happening. We know that because when we were doing the CAT rat test program and trials with different variants, we saw it happening inside the silencers. When we were inspecting them after testing, we saw the impingement markings from the Nano with 300 blackout. Okay. Now, the second thing I mentioned, the different jet expansion timing, well, I'm not sure of all the exact timing differences, but that part's just a theory, and it's a working theory. But it stands to reason just looking at how the geometry is and understanding what these guns do. So what you have here, excuse me. What you have here, you have a utilization of surge bypass that we actually haven't seen before in the public pedigree. Because you got to ask yourself, what happens when you pressurize the annulus earlier? What does the pressure differential in the main board do? How does that behave through the stack as you progress through the stages? And right now what we're seeing, get down to brass tacks, we're seeing meaningful performance gains on short barrels to the point that it's driving our hypothesis really closer to, you give that annulus as high a pressure as early as you can. And, that brings you to another hypothesis, or maybe a hypothesis of maybe you want to get an optimal pressure differential at a certain area of the silencer at a certain time. Maybe there's a magic Goldilocks performance window. I'm not sure. This is sort of a little research branch that kind of happened through happenstance. Very client and technology specific, but I do have a feeling it's going to translate into more parts of the industry as other companies start to see what it might be doing. It's what's happening, and maybe they experiment themselves. Whenever people see something in the silencer, they cut it open and copy or get inspired. That'll happen. And it does happen. There are examples. I'm going to keep this on topic. I don't want to get political and get people all riled up, but if you've been following this effort for a while, what silencers, what family trees are kind of crossing in different companies. You see it. It's hard to prove, right? But if you watch the whole thing unfold. So one of the $1 million questions, I think, is can you cut the front of a spooky mount off and get a different answer than the Nano? I don't know. It's a good question. Another $1 million question is, what if you use a Nano in a WB or an ODB or a JL or anything else with early venting? Look at those silencers. Look in the blast chamber of these silencers, guys. Just because they have early venting doesn't mean they're the same silencer. The technology in these cat silencers are all different, but they all do have something in common with their vent structures. They're not all the same in the vent structures, but all those three I just mentioned have vent structures. They're just not the same ones. It's not just the sort of surge bypass stuff. A lot of other cat stuff has that. Now, I say all this to say I'm not sure of the entire implications here, but I know some dealers have been experimenting publicly and reporting differences. So that's interesting to see. Okay. Yeah. And, I think we're just going to have to see how this all plays out. Are you going to get, do you have like a new silencer when you put a Nano in your old WB or something? Maybe you have something that you didn't know you had. We're going to learn with you. Right now, we are seeing high performance from this little KK on the Mark 18, and it is rivaling many classic designs. And it's not just rivaling them in the pure suppression performance at the muzzle, but it's at the ear too, in a big way. We feel like a meaningful way, given what we've seen throughout history. And so I think we should do that. Let's look at the data specifically now. Go ahead and pull up the article. Again, it's Article 6-197 on the website. If you're a member, please pull up the full version. If you're not a member, you just want to pull up the free version, that's fine. I won't leave you behind. It'll be just fine. Okay. Pull it up. Once you have it up, you look at the graphic at the top of the page. Bottom line up front, 32.4, suppression rating 1 meter left of the distal end of the silencer, 1.6 meters above the ground in the true free field. 28.6, suppression rating 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear. Okay, that is both those locations are mill standard locations. This is bringing us to a composite suppression rating of 34.3 on the standard 10.3 inch barrel Mark 18. 070 gas port, H2 buffer, stock position 4 of 6, M193 ammo from Lake City manufacturer, all that good stuff. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, we got a question about that, like what ammo we use. It's in all the charts. You can read it. Now, notice how the composite suppression rating jumped up a little bit off of the muzzle rating. Do you see that? I don't know if you noticed that. Why did that happen? Well, it's because the ear rating got high enough for that to happen. The more balanced the performance between the muzzle and ear, the higher the composite rating gets. That's how that simplified one number rating works. It is always based on muzzle and ear. Always. To prove that to yourself, you can go look at the rankings table and go through any example you should choose, and you should so choose. Sorry, I butchered that, and you can prove that to yourself. Okay, it's a mathematical formula. There's no funny business there. Now, how is this thing doing? In a 4.75 inch total package with a mount. I mean, what do these numbers mean? And what exactly is it doing physically to achieve the performance that it's achieving? So we can look at that. Let's do that. Scroll down, please, all the way. Scroll down past that first table, and you will get to a series of data, like of graphs with like a bunch of squiggly lines on them. Okay, stop in figure 1. That's blast overpressure. Figure 1A and figure 1B, this is in the free field. 1 meter left of the end cap of the silencer. Okay, this is raw data. Now, let's interpret what we see, which is the important part of testing. Yeah. So what we see is fast blowdown. Ground reflection is appearing, which is clear to that. You have a very long time for the bolt carrier group to return to battery. These are very clean traces, nothing funny going on. The early time in 1B there, it shows coincident shock fronts. What I mean by that is from shot to shot, the shock front of the first jet coupled with a Mach wave and the first blast jet is very consistent, and we'll get to that in a second. What that actually is the first surge bypass initial jet, and it gets under control very quickly, and that's where stuff continues to get interesting. What the KK is doing, it is able to throttle the blast momentum from all the shots to essentially the same peak amplitude. You look at figure 2, which is impulse, not pressure. So this is blast momentum transfer potential. You can almost think of those as blast momentum energy plots. I know it's not really that, but just previous episode I explained this further, so listen to that first. If you need a refresher on pressure and impulse. In the first shot, in figure 2A, you can see extra combustion from the FRP is visible, yes? Okay. But only for a short time. Yeah. It literally tries to hide out near the top, and then it's almost like it didn't even happen shortly after that, which is really odd. It is kind of odd. And I think I used the word unusual in this report several times because the Cat KK with this nano mount behaves in an unusual way for a 5.56 silencer and a very unusual way for a short 5.56 silencer. It's just on a short barrel. This is very unusual. And to prove that to yourself, you can look through the pedigree of research, pick a silencer and look at it in the data. And don't even look at the suppression rating if you don't like that. Look at the data. This is an unusual silencer. Halfway through the initial FRP accumulation, like where most of the FRP is really developing and propagating, the rate actually changes and it slows down. Now, is that part of the surge bypass trickery? A little magic gnome in the silencer or something? Yeah, kinda. But also, is this maybe because the silencer is really small? I mean, in a way, maybe. I mean, maybe that is one good thing about being tiny. Maybe you don't have as much air to propagate that extra combustion. I don't know. I think you can't have one without the other. You can't do this without advancement, though. You can't just, it's small. It won't have FRP. No. I mean, you saw with the Recce, that was different. Yes. Yeah. It's a little more advanced here. So this technology does very well. But also, it's interesting, it does have a challenge of not having a lot of downstream baffles to help suppress the FRP, yet it still does it because it does it in a different way. Okay, let me draw you a comparison. Take a Q Southpaw, relatively recent released silencer and evaluated silencer, within this year. Q's first 556 silencer, dedicated 556 silencer, it's a good example. So unlike the Southpaw, surge bypass in these cat silencers, it quenches FRP in multiple stages. And a big proportion of the initial jetting actually creates a big pulse in the annulus of the silencer. There are actually more opportunities for a new flame front that's created when more burning happens. There's more opportunities for it to end, to be quenched. It actually will not propagate unimpeded and be out of control. So you look at the Q Southpaw, a little different story. Yeah. It's not. Southpaw is handicapped in the way they've designed it. It doesn't have many features. It's lacking many features. It's just factual what I'm saying to you. And so, that's one of the reasons I told a guy on the internet there the other day. He asked about flash, with the KK, and I said, I don't know yet. Like I told you earlier, I said I don't know. I haven't shot at night, but also look at the blast load propagation, the data at the muzzle. It's not a perfect way to forecast flash performance, but it's not useless. I would not expect the KK to flash a lot based on what I see in this data. Now, will it flash a lot? I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe it won't. I guess we'll see. But I'm saying based on what I see in Figure 2 and the control I'm seeing, that momentum, I forecast there may not be a lot of flash. That's what I forecast. But that's only because I know what it takes to do what it's doing on the short barrel. So let me know. Any of you dealers that have them, go shoot them at night. Maybe you'd get to it before I do. You know what I mean? Let me know what happens. And let me know the ammo too. We're testing with M193. Doesn't have any flash suppressor or anything in it. So on a short barrel, it might flash more with M193. Silencers in general might flash more with M193 than other ammo. I don't know. So check that out. Now, there was a lot of comparison to the 4 Monarch Recce here in this report. And for good reason, like I said. I think those of you who really want to know the differences between those two silencers, you're going to get a kick out of this report. A lot of the differences, FRP, heat-affected performance, consistency through the string. A lot of this comes down to what I talked about earlier, the pressure staging, the annular utilization, the distal vent array. Each one of those things in the KK is a little more advanced or a lot more advanced. And when you add them all together, it pulls away, even with a smaller size. And this is that, I know sometimes people find this annoying, this analogy, but this is that Formula One type stuff in silencers now I keep talking about. I know it's not a race car, and it's not a Formula One car, but it's a little sum of the parts. And you don't get this type of performance all the time. It's the sum of the little tweaks that get things to this point. Mount, pressure differentials, quenching, rerouting, all kinds of little tweaks that are doing interesting things. It's all of them added up. And actually, if you want to know more about that in detail, it is all summarized in detail in Research Note 2 of the report for these two silencers. It's a very long and detailed multi-paragraph bullet thing I go through if you want to know exactly the difference of why. Because some people look at the suppression ratings and they're like, well, they're not too far off. And you're right. The suppression ratings aren't too far off. And the suppression rating is a risk metric, so the risk really isn't that different. But if you're really examining what's happening with the silencers and what they're doing, we've looked at that detail, and that's there for you if you need it. Okay. Now another thing to think about is how far are you getting ahead of true flow-through from Huxworks with this silencer and the Recce, like if at all? Like, are you even, like, how far are you getting ahead of those in performance? I mean, the flow rate from the Hux stuff is faster. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. But what, if anything, are you giving up with the KK over like the Flow 556K maybe? You giving anything up? I don't think you're giving much up. I think you're actually getting a degree of blast propagation control that's really superior with the Cat KK to the Huxworks Flow 556K. I don't think it's the same sport. I think you'd probably be surprised. You shoot these silencers back to back. The KK is a lot smaller than the Flow 556K too. I think you'd be surprised. You shoot these little things back to back. I think you'd be surprised. It's funny. You look at the flow rates of the Cat KK. Actually, you're sort of sitting at the same as an Infinity with a vented 556 end cap. Not the same, but pretty similar, guys. The Cat KK actually outperforms that silencer on this gun too. And yeah, the Infinity is a 7.62 silencer, so maybe not fair, but it's also way bigger than the KK. So that's notable stuff. It's all in the report. We go through this in detail, but this is some highlights I want to give you because you appreciate the gravity. And Pew Science members, of course, when you look in the full report in your version there, thank you for support, by the way. That's why you get to see this, because you support us and we give this to you in return. I mean that. When you look at the full report and you look at the high fidelity data that measured the shooter's head, those ear signatures are so balanced. Look at the momentum traces. I mean, really rapid decay too, which is a good sign. You're just not pushing the shooter over with blast loads here. Man, if you could tune this gun just a little bit, knock down that ejection port blast, oh my goodness gracious, it's gonna be wild with this little can for the shooter. I just think that's so odd because of how small it is. It's so odd. It is so unusual what this thing is capable of. And I think those of you who end up shooting this, go shoot it. If there's a silencer shoot and they have this thing, go shoot it. I want to know what you think. Because it's odd. It just doesn't track with how big it is. It's doing something that's strange. And I just think that's important to highlight. This, if you're new to silencers, this is not normal. Okay? Now in the big bar chart in the article here, those are getting unmanageable. I'm going to have to split those up like I started doing the 308 articles. And the big bar chart, look where it's hanging. And now you might want to go to the rankings because rankings table in section 7 might be easier to look at. It's interesting to me, and we put some numbers in the report for you with regard to the rankings. But if you go to the rankings table and sort, it will become apparent. You're basically trading muzzle and ear gains with the WB here, okay? And you're real small. Now, keep in mind, you're using the Nano with this thing. We don't know what the Nano does in the WB, but anyway. This thing is sitting, you know what? It's sitting right next to the SCI 6 in overall ranking. That's actually nuts, dude. It's sitting right between the 5.56 vented end cap Infinity from Otter Creek and the SCI 6 from CGS, sitting right in between them in performance in the rankings, overall composite rating. Now, if you sort by muzzle suppression rating only, descending, it's going to be between a Flow 7.62 Ti and a Saker. Dude, that is nuts. Now, you sort by shooter's ear suppression rating, bro, it's in number 7 total on the MK18. Between a Vent 3 and a Maximus L. Dude, that's crazy pants. It really is. It's 4.75 inches long. Like, for a lot of people, this is probably it for a 5.56 silencer. Like, on a short barrel 5.56, if you have a short barrel 5.56 gun, this might be it. Like, you might be like, okay. Like, just the control you have with a silencer this small and it's in canal, just move the gun around. A short barrel 5.56 gun with a tiny silencer that's made out of Inconel that suppresses like this, it presents a very interesting option for a lot of people, myself included. I'm just like, really? Okay. I have hearing protection on. I'm shooting a lot. Like, do I need something quieter if I can be this small? I don't know. Maybe I don't. That's and you know me. I'm a junkie for the quietest stuff. Like, part of the reason this effort exists because I want to know what the quietest stuff is, right? I don't care who makes it at all, dude. When the Flow 556K came out and we tested that, and I saw what it was doing at the shooter's ear, dude, I was running that on my personal gun, that Huxwick silencer. I was like, look at me. I have the, like, look at me. Look at me. This is so cool. I don't care who makes it, dude. I am totally brand agnostic. Like, if you don't know me, you might think like I endorse a certain brand or something. Absolutely not. I'll chase performance. I don't care. I'm not loyal at all. It's like that meme with Woody from Toy Story. I'll throw a silencer in the trash if I find something better. That's just me. I don't care, dude. I have access to all these silencers. You think I have a reason to run something that doesn't have high performance? I have the choice of any silencer I want. I don't care who makes it at all. And I'm telling you, this one right here, it makes me think like weird thoughts. It's like, oh, it's how big? Huh. I can put it on as short a barrel as I want? Huh. Okay. Maybe I will. I don't know. Yeah. Things that make you go, sorry, hit the microphone. Yeah. It actually presents me a personal conundrum. That's how strange this is to me. I don't know, dude. Maybe silencers are just getting that good. I think this one for the size is really making me scratch my head. I think timing of annular flow with proper pressure staging and a novel vent control system is just chef's kiss right here. And not only with the KK, there's all kinds of examples of should I say that again? Timing annular flow, proper pressure staging, novel vent control. Are those three ingredients, if you're baking a cake of ridiculous awesomeness in a supersonic silencer, or is that baking a cake that's going to taste good? I think so. I think all the modern silencers that are crushing high pressure short barrel stuff, I think all the silencers that crush that performance demand are doing that. They're doing those three things. Now, I'm going to give a personal opinion. Again, and look, I'm done making friends. I don't make friends. I'm making more enemies probably with what I say, but I would tell you personally, I don't even look at traditional baffle stuff for short barrel supersonic use anymore at all. I don't even look at it for my own use. Like mostly never actually for supersonic use in general. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't even like a polonium, like a ASE M4000. Like, that doesn't cross my desk for my own personal use. Now, does that mean those are bad silencers? No, by no means. Does that mean you shouldn't use them? Absolutely not. That's not what that means at all. I'm just saying for me, knowing what I know about what we've seen when we've published publicly, there's no reason for me to look at them. We're just so far past old cone stuff. It doesn't matter anymore, to the point like, dude, for example, and look, this is not going to be political either. This is facts. We just saw Q release some new 30 caliber stuff, right? They released out of steel instead of titanium. Dude, that's cool. That's nice. Looks like they kept the weight down. Awesome. Engineers did a good job on that. That's cool. Silencers look nice. Looks like they could use a lot of baffles because of that weight saving. Hey, that's cool. But guess what? I'm not looking forward to learning much from those designs at all because we already know what they do. I already saw a cutaway. Q posted one. I already know what that silencer does. So do you. If you've kept up with the pedigree, you already know how it works. You don't need to know anymore. What? Oh, it's going to be a little quieter on subsonic rounds with the bolt gun? Oh, okay. Because it's bigger than full Nelson? Okay. Well, there's other things out there that you'll see that might make you question reality. And I can tell you that right now. So those are coming. With regard to this other stuff, the four system stuff, the new Otter Creek stuff, the cat stuff, list goes on. Centurion arms. Man, there's so many cool stuff. That's where the interesting problems are being solved to me. We're over 5 years in now. We don't need to dwell on old things. It's time to move on, and I think we have. I don't think we're out of the woods with a lot of stuff, but I think there's a lot more interesting problems to be solved with a lot of interesting technology than the simple cone stuff, and that's just my opinion. And I base that opinion on published research over the past 5 years. One moment. Okay, that's what I think. I would say, just before we move to the next subtopic, I would say, and I said this on social media, and I'll say it again, I'm not embarrassed of it. I'm flabbergasted at what this little silencer does on this platform. It's flabbergasting to me. That means it's very surprising. I thought that word was apt for that. That's how I feel. I feel flabbergasted. I hope that's okay to say. Let's move into subtopic C. This will be performance extrapolation, and if it's possible. I know a lot of you have been asking about this at a time of 45 minutes and 31 seconds. This is actually, and you know how sometimes people say, a lot of people have been asking me, and it's like a prompt for them to say something that people may or may not care about. No, I mean like people have been emailing us and messaging me and calling me about this on my phone, on my cell phone. Jay, what about the barrel length? No, let me tell you all at once. I'll answer this to everyone all at once. And if you hear anyone ask, you can have them listen to this topic at 45 minutes and 31 seconds. Okay. Extrapolating performance to different weapons and longer barrels with the KK. Because you're asking yourself, well, Jay, what happens on the 14.5-inch gun on the M4? Tell me. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not think you get the gains you think you're going to get. If you're new to silencers and someone told you that silencers get quieter all the time when you make the barrel longer, if the silencers are really simple, that's true. If they're not, and they're wunderkinds on the short barrels, then it's not true. I present to you an example: Surefire 5.56 RC2, Automatic Infinity, and other hybrids. We're still learning. What I'm seeing, and I'll use the pronoun I and not we, because I personally have been digging into this. What I am seeing, is that this KK loves high pressure. And I think anything you see with a nano right now, or let me rephrase that. I think any performance you see with a nano mount right now, it might be really tied to high pressure doing interesting stuff. So I think you should stay tuned on that. I think there's a tipping point on the performance curve. I don't know if that's a 12.5-inch barrel. I think once you get to 14, I think your nano benefits aren't as pronounced with this technology. That's what I think. I think you might get worse performance, potentially. I mean, much worse? No. I just don't think you're going to see an increase in performance. I don't think, not at that length. I just don't think it's going to happen. We have to test the theories. I'm not sure. It depends. I think, you guys, and you listened to me talk to you about this in the Infinity deep dive last episode, right? That was a really high level talk that used very simple analogies. And we don't actually know everything about every technology. We're still learning, so we're getting through this. And you know why? I'm going to tell you something. This is why testing on real guns in a real test environment in a consistent way is so important. You got to use different platforms to explore the physics. Why do you think we're using different barrel lengths with ARs? We want to learn. Why do you think we use such a short barrel length with 300 blackout? 2 short barrel lengths so far. You saw all the 300 blackout 8-inch bolt gun stuff. And then you saw we started using the MCX with the 6.75-inch. We want to know the physics and the performance limits. We don't want to do this weird. There are several people out there testing silencers and saying you should test silencers on 16-inch barrel 300 blackout. And you're like, who studying combustion propagation from silencers and human risk studies wants to look at that? Is there a reason? I mean, I'm asking. Or is it just that they think it's important? I don't. If you actually care about this and you really want to understand the physics and you want, with the end goal of protecting people and looking at the upper echelons of performance potentials, wouldn't you pick your choices really carefully? That would be my question. I'm not trying to be combative about it. I think when people are asking, well, what happens when you go to longer barrel? It's like, well, maybe not what you think is going to happen. And then the people that are testing on long barrels all the time, that people might ask them, well, what happens when you go on a shorter barrel? And what are they going to say? Oh, it just gets louder? Well, maybe not. Okay. I don't know. It's important to know how this stuff behaves. So I don't want this to be a letdown in this little subtopic about extrapolation, but I would say if you're a betting man, and I'm not, but if you want to bet that you're going to get a Cat KK and put it on a really long barrel and all of a sudden have a wonder silencer that's quieter than everything, no. I think you should look at the MK18 performance and be happy with that, with the KK. And I think that's really good performance. And I think if you want to tune your gun, you get even higher at the ear. How about that? It's 4.75 inches long, guys. And you have a nano mount injecting high pressure blast into the annulus directly. Okay. Just be happy with that. Right. Big thanks again to Cat R&D for trusting our laboratory to perform this work. This third party performance validation studies. Some clients are more difficult than others. They do wild stuff, and they said some very nice things about us publicly on social media. I don't know what prompted them to do that, but it meant a lot. I saw it commented on it. I was like, man, thank you. That's cool. For me, you run a firm, you run a consultancy, you run a lab, which I've done all of those things. And when your clients give you positive feedback publicly is like a really big deal to me. It's very nice. And it helps us know that we're doing a good job. And they said we were doing a good job. I was like, man, that means a lot, because this is hard. And I think we've done it in a way that we show we're fair, and we're not partial to anything. And we call out the bad, we call out the good. And so far, so good. I think so. So this is good. I hope this helps you understand the silencer. I don't know what else to tell you about it. Between the two talks we've had, the intro talk last week and this one, I have it in front of me. It's very short. Ours is a prototype, so it not prototype in like dimensions, but like it doesn't have like a fancy coating. It just looks like someone painted in their garage or whatever black, but which is fine. I don't care. It's small and mighty. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing people shoot it in the wild, because I really love when I hear the performance impressions from people, and then I get to go look at the report we wrote and see if it agrees. And it always does, which is cool, And so that how good is that feedback when your client tells you do a good job? So that's cool. But then the consumers and everyone using the data tell you that it also represents their experience. Well, that's like icing on the cake to me. It's so cool, and we get that a lot. And so I'm looking forward. And maybe you might have a different experience. And if you do, I want to know why. So tell me all about it. Okay, 99 times out of 100, it's because if you have a different experience, it's because you had a different setup, which makes sense. But usually when people are doing it in the same setup, it's identical, which it should be. Okay, yeah. Now, let's talk about something else. I'm going to give you completely personal opinions, which I don't normally do, but I'm going to give you a lot of them. You personal opinions about turning money into lead downrange. One 300 blackout pill at a time in topic 2 at a time of 54 minutes and 8 seconds. SIG MCX, low visibility assault weapon and its variants. I know there's cloners that get bent out of shape when you use that acronym, but yeah, that's what we're doing. 6.75 inch Rattler or MCX, Rattler LT, recreationally. Been doing that. I have interesting findings to share with you. Shot about 1,000 rounds through this gun on Sunday, yeah. This past Sunday, various ammo brands, supers and subs. I have a SD, a SIG, they call it the Suppressor compliant Handguard. Yeah, wait, I wrote it down. Hold on a second. Where is that? I wrote it down. Yeah, they call it the suppressor compliant handguard. Is it though? Yeah. I put that on there. Is it practical? No, dude, it's not. If you shoot a lot, I'm gonna tell you why. It might make people mad. Don't get scared. Look, I'm gonna say this up front. If you have a tucked silencer under a handguard and you are shooting an intermediate rifle cartridge, you should really think about that carefully if you want to shoot a lot. I think some folks that say they do shoot a lot with that situation, with the silencer tucked under the handguard there with the intermediate rifle cartridge, I think some folks that say they do shoot that a lot, I actually don't think they shoot that much, and I think maybe they're wearing welding gloves or something, or maybe they have a secret they need to share with me. That's what I think, based on physics that I observe. This may be pretty simple to a lot of you experienced folks. One thing that's really important, I think, is that folks understand the difference between a pistol cartridge and a rifle cartridge. And everyone has seen the HK MP5 SD over the years, very famous. We know that you can shoot that very comfortably. It has a barrel and silencer that are tucked inside the handguard there, and you won't have any issues there, no problem. There are various firearms people that shoot with tucked silencers under handguards, and it often works very well, maybe with a little help, For example, folks like to use subsonic 300 blackout with tucked silencers, and oftentimes that'll work okay for limited firearms because it's going to get a little bit hot. Maybe put a rail wrap on there, some gloves, and maybe be okay, Why is that? Why is that okay a lot of the times with 300 blackout subsonic? Why? Well, subsonic 300 blackout is basically a pistol cartridge when it comes to energy. You simply aren't generating as much heat as quickly as you are with a rifle cartridge. People think energy, they think I'm talking about like terminal energy of the projectile or something. Well, I am, but where do you think it got that energy? Well, there's combustion energy that pushed it out of the damn barrel. Let's talk about like energy at the origin for a minute, shall we? What happens though when you want to switch that gas block switch to the minus setting on the MCX and shoot your supers? You're not just changing your bullet velocity, guys, when you switch ammo to supers. You're actually changing the combustion energy by a significant amount, okay? You have stopped shooting a pistol cartridge. You are now shooting an intermediate rifle cartridge in the same gun. And that can be confusing. That can be confusing to new folks, because it's the same gun. So, they think everything's the same, and it's pretty freaking far from the same. It's kind of like switching from 45 ACP to 5.56. That's what I would compare that to, frankly. It's that different. And it's important to know that for heat management. It's important to know that for recoil. It's important to know that for all kinds of stuff. And so I made a list. I don't like lists, but sometimes I make them. And I made a list of some personal observations that I noticed this past weekend shooting the MCX for fun, and I did have fun. And this is in no particular order. This is stream of consciousness. I wrote this down before recording this podcast. This is just a quick list of stuff I thought about that I think may help some of you if you're looking to get into this platform and shoot subs and supers out of it and everything. So this is MCX centric, so kind of. First thing, make sure you install your barrel correctly. It's really easy to have removed your barrel, like maybe you're changing muzzle devices or cleaning the gun or whatever you may be doing for maintenance work with the MCX system. It's really easy to reinstall it incorrectly. I have found the MCX, it has a clamp system that retains the barrel extension. If you don't fully unscrew the two screws, because what you can do, you can loosen the screws, unscrew them enough to remove the barrel. Okay. Now, if you don't unscrew them all the way, when you put them or enough, when you put that barrel back in, the barrel extension will fit in, and it'll bottom out, but it won't bottom out fully seated. And the two index pins on the side there are not going to bottom out in the receiver, and it'll let you think it might be okay if you're not looking and paying attention. if you don't look at those pins from the side, and if you don't look at the feed ramps in that chamber, you might get the whole thing assembled and torqued. And when you go to shoot, you'll simply be using a firing pin that can't even reach the dang primer, because the round you chambered with inertias, it's all the way in the chamber and it's too far away. You'd be like, click. You're like, what happened? How come I click and it didn't no boom? Yeah, it's because you didn't put the gun together correctly. Ask me how I know. Yeah, I was talking to a guy at SIG. He said apparently this happens quite frequently, like during maintenance and actual like people that use the guns for work. They mess up and they put it together. They don't pay attention when they're putting it back together, because it can be deceptively easy to put it back together. But if you're not paying attention, you don't put the barrel in right all the way in. Yeah, make sure your barrel's installed right. Also, make sure your firing pin spring isn't installed backward. Apparently, that's another thing that could cause that problem. So, other than that, should go bang just fine. I just thought I would highlight this quick thing. One moment. So I thought that was funny because it happened to me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so stupid." It's just like, because then you look in the you take out your mag, and you look in the chamber, and you're like, "Huh. How come the barrel extension's so far forward, the feed ramps on the dang upper?" And you're like, oh, it's because I didn't put the barrel all the way in. Oh, that's a bonehead move. Duh. I'm not embarrassed to tell you about that. I mean, hey, I know it's going to happen to one of you. I know it is, because if it happened to me, it happened to anyone. Look, I'm not too proud to admit mistakes. The second thing I wrote down, when you this is kind of dumb too. When you set out to shoot the gun, and you're going to be mixing ammo types because you're all hot and heavy, want to know like me. You're like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this ammo does. I can't wait to see what this ammo does. Maybe you're shooting watermelons or something. Make sure your gas valve is set on the correct setting. I know it sounds stupid, but some people think, oh man, I'm going to keep one mag loaded with supers, and I'm going to have one mag loaded with subs. And when I need to be really quiet, I'm going to switch to my subsonic mag. Great plan, G.I. Joe. But if you don't switch your gas valve to plus when switching to that subsonic mag, you're going to have a single-shot weapon. Again, this sounds simple, but you got to train that, dude. You got to practice, or you're going to forget it. I'm telling you, this is just, I know this is little stuff, but we're gonna get more complicated. Third thing, speaking of supers and subs, now this is that tucking thing under a handguard. Totally do if you want, dude. Free country. It looks cool, whatever. But I urge you to have a plan. Don't go into this without a plan. You're going to be disappointed. You have a limited amount of time, and let me say that differently. You have a finite amount of time you will be able to hold on to that handguard if your silencer's tucked inside it with a repeated fire. Okay? Let's all be realistic. With subsonic rounds, you got a little more time. With supers, you have a mag. I think you have about a mag. If you wear gloves, maybe you got a couple mags. After a few mags of supers, gloves might not even help you. I promise you. It gets that hot. When you do a lot, like, okay, let me paint a picture for you. When you do a lot of drills with your 5.56 AR, like people show on the internet, you usually don't have a tucked silencer, right? Let's be honest. So, like, if you do drills with an MCX with a tucked silencer, with supersonic 300 blackout, you're doing the same thing as you're doing with your 5.56 AR. And I can tell you right now, it will not work for you. It will not work. You will not be able to concentrate on your course of fire because you will be shifting your hand to a place that was not burning you. And you are not special. Like, you're not like, oh no, you don't know me, bro. I'm like, I have such tough, calloused hands because I work so hard. No, dude. You're a human and you don't have special hands. I'm sorry. If your nervous system is working correctly and you know pain is real, then yeah, it's going to be too hot after a while. Like, maybe, okay, if you're only shooting like a couple mags with supers or a few mags of supers and you have gloves, like, you'll be fine. But like, dude, if you're shooting all day because you're a maniac like me, dude, no, it's going to be too hot. there's too much radiant heat coming off of that handguard, if it's off of that silencer in that handguard to not heat it up. That's physics. That's it. That's the physics, that you're literally containing an explosion again and again. And supersonic 300 blackout is an intermediate rifle cartridge, and it's exploding into the silencer, and that's silencer's heating up, and the radiant heat is heating up the handguard, and that's it. Okay. And something else to think about with supersonic rounds, here's another thing I wrote down here for you, is recoil with the MCX. Now, it's not a big gun. It doesn't weigh a lot, at least the newer ones. And, supersonic 300 blackout, those bullet weights, dude, those are heavier than 5.56 rounds. Okay, it's not 55 grain. You're running over twice the weight. You're running the 125 grain ammo usually on supers. You're going to get recoil that you're not used to having when you're shooting subs out of the same gun. The subs are heavier, but they're not moving with the same get up and go. Your momentum is different. The momentum transfer is different. What creates recoil? Momentum transfer. Okay? Now, it's manageable. It's fun, but you got to train it. You got to practice. I think practice is really important. I would go so far as to say that shooting subs and shooting supers out of an MCX, a 300 blackout MCX, I think it's like shooting two different guns in a way. That would be my opinion based on me shooting 1,000 rounds just this Sunday. And look, and if this sounds like a super intuitive thing to you, like, congratulations, you're like more on top of this than me. Like, good job. You're better than me. Okay. But I'm giving you my experience. I really think I think the gun behaves completely differently with supers and subs, to the point where I think the mechanics are the same, but boy, I think super's going to keep you honest, and you better practice. If you think you're going to be a superstar with subs and you're so awesome, and you think you're just going to have a MAGA with subs, and you just think you're going to have a MAGA supers ready, that you're just going to shoot just as well with this gun without practicing, you are delusional. Or maybe you're just ignorant, like, and that's fine too. I'm just telling you, if you really care to use supers out of this gun, you need to be practicing with that too, because the gun is gonna be great and work very well, but it's gonna tell you a different story when you're holding it. Okay, and I think that's important to know. And I look, again, this might be super old hat for people that are really awesome 300 blackout people. I get it, dude. Like, you're awesome, but some of you have no idea. So I hope that helps. Something else I wrote down. Now, will this gun eat anything? Like, is it ammo sensitive? So far, I have found that my gun does not care at all. Like, dude, I can shoot anything I want from this gun. But then, like, anything so far, steel case, brass case, subs, supers, commie, USA, like, whatever, dude. This gun is like, okay, thank you, sir. May I have another? Like, it does not care. It eats everything. Now, caveat, you got to use the right magazines. My gun came with a 300 blackout PMag, no problems. So those are a yes. Latest gen sure feeds, the sure feeds with the nipples on them, with the blue follower, also yes. Feeds everything perfectly in my experience. You know what's a big no? 5.56 PMags with 300 subs. Don't do that. The ogive of the bullet doesn't fit right. It's going to hang up. Won't feed right. That's how that is. First gen sure feed mags, the ones without the nipples, with the green follower, like the standard GI mags. No, I found that those malfunction with steel case ammo. They don't feed right. I don't know why. 20 round sure feeds, those old GI 20 rounders, those straight ones, those actually feed everything just fine. The weird part with those 20 rounders is they're not, well, for one, they're not made for 300 blackout, but they don't lock. They don't always lock. The carrier doesn't always lock back on them on the last round, even with supers. So it's not. It has nothing to do with like back pressure or whatever. No, it's like something about it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's such a short mag and the spring rate is like maybe lower. I don't know. I don't know what it is with those 20 round sure feeds, but they're not made for 300 blackout. That could be why. I don't know. So that's interesting. And they always, sometimes they do work, and so you might be fooled. But if you shoot it, like I said, I shot like 1,000 rounds, so I was able to try a lot of mags. So because I really wanted to know. I want to use this, like this is a personal gun, so I want to really understand the gun and learn the gun and know the gun. And so I was really I could not predict. I could not predict when the 20 round Surefeed 5.56 mag would lock back on an empty mag with any ammo. It just, for some reason, the most problem was with supers, and I don't know if that's I have some other theories, but I actually don't care, because 20 round Surefeeds are not something I would use with this gun. I think what I'm going to be doing with this gun, there's 2 mags I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using my latest gen Surefeeds, the Blue Follower nipple metal mags that I like, and I'm going to use the 300 blackout specific magazines from Magpul that I have. And maybe some, there are all other magazines like Lancer Systems, I know, makes 300 blackout specific mags. They're famous for those. Maybe I'll get some of those. I don't know. But right now, the P mags, the 300 blackout P mags and the nipple Surefeeds, golden with those. So that's cool. What else I wrote down? Oh yeah, I want to talk more about heat. How hot is too hot? I want to give you some specifics so I'm not blowing your skirt up. I put it to the test, dude. I used different gloves just to understand. First, no gloves, then some gloves. Some gloves I commonly use shooting because I use them hunting are made by First Light. They are pretty thin. They have a thin leather cloth. They're not that. They're very light. I like them because I can manipulate stuff like weapons and stuff when hunting. And they're very comfortable. I have them for a very long time. After a couple of mags, several mags of supers, it was too hot for the First Light mags. Okay, with a tucked silencer. Then I tried the mechanics work gloves I had in my truck. Too hot for those. They were a little better, but still got too hot. So you have conductive heat into the barrel and the gun, and then you have radiant heat from the silencer. That's a really big deal. The major thing you simply can't get away from with a tucked silencer is heat, no matter what. What else? Oh, did I not talk about the recoil? Oh, right. I did talk about recoil with supers. I also want to tell you that something that might be interesting to you, and we can talk about this later. I'm going to post some videos on Instagram when I post this podcast so you can see the videos, but I took some thermal videos. And I don't want to only talk about the heat signature from the gun, but the heat signature coming out of the silencer. When you use a high flow rate silencer with supers versus subs, the particular one I was using, you actually get more recoil with the higher distal flow, which makes sense, right? Because there's higher gas velocity coming out of the end. So that, I think those thrust vectors increase recoil a little bit. I think I noticed that, but I didn't do an instrumented test, so I don't want to pin my hat on that, but I think I noticed that. So that was interesting. And you're not going to notice it with subsonic. There's not enough thrust. With supers, I feel like I knew that. I noticed that. So back to heat. You might be thinking, well, do you need to fix it? Do you need to worry about it? And I don't want to scare you, but I might say it might not matter to you. If you shoot mostly subsonic rounds through your gun with a tuck silencer, or you just occasionally shoot a mag of supers, dude, this might not matter to you, and don't worry about it. You could probably tuck your silencer in this and be okay. But if you want to have a full range day with supers and subs and really practice with this system, you need a heat mitigation strategy. You really need a plan. Now, is that gloves and a rail wrap? Maybe that's it for you. Will it eventually get too hot? I think it will. I think the gloves are going to get hot and the rail wrap's going to get hot eventually too. Now, nothing's going to perfectly insulate against heat forever. You just can't do that with the technologies you have unless you're putting really crazy thing around it. If you keep shooting this, you're going to keep generating heat. I'm sorry. That's just going to happen. Now, you can let the gun cool off, and that's fine, dude. But if you want to keep shooting, like you can shoot like a Mark 18 with a short barrel with a handguard and a normal silencer and gloves way longer than you can shoot a tuck. If you change that handguard to a tuck silencer in the Mark 18, I promise. So just keep that in mind. One moment. So, I wrote this down. So you look at this SD handguard, like why? Why do you want it? I'll start. I'll tell you some of the reasons I like them. One, I think they look cool. And I think looking cool is a huge part of this because guns are cool and you want to look cool. Secondly, you can put more stuff on the rail further forward, and it's more comfortable to hold for me because I'm a taller person, and I have longer arms, and I like to put my support hand kind of further forward, and I don't want to grab the silencer because that's dumb because it gets hot. On an old sub guns, you used to grab the silencer. We don't do that with intermediate rifle cartridges, okay? Another thing I like to be able to rest the rail on barriers and trees and things like that when I shoot. Where I shoot, I like to do that. I do that with my 13-inch SCAR, which is a 7.62 gun. That's a 7.62 NATO gun. I do that all the time with my SCAR. I have a 13-inch barrel. I have a cool rail that extends forward. I can brace against a tree with it. Oh, I love doing that. I love to do the same thing with the MCX, and I think having a longer handguard can help you do that, and it's cool. Those are my major reasons for liking that SD handguard. I think that it looks cool. I think it's practical for me. So, how do I balance that? What are my personal plans? I wrote this down too. What's my personal path forward? If you want to know what I think, what I'm going to do, if you were me, what would you do? It's a personal gun. So I think right now I love the way the thing shoots. I'm a big fan of the gun. I'm a big fan of the weapon system. The EOTech, I use an EOTech EXPS 3-2. That's an EXPS 3 from EOTech. So it has a built-in QD mount to it. That's what that means. And the -2 means that it has 2 dots inside the circle reticle. And that's cool because I find that when I shoot at certain yardages, like if I'm far enough away, the way I have it zeroed, my 2 dots, like my bottom dot is for my subs, and then my normal dot is for my supers, and it's like super fast and like easy, and like are there more sophisticated sighting systems I could use in reticles? Yeah, but I just think that EOTech is cool, and I there's no parallax, and it's just it's a holographic sight. It's cool, dude. I keep a spare battery in my grip. Like it's cool. It works. I think that's my and I have backup iron sights. I use Knight's Armament flip-ups, which I think is key, especially when I have an EOTech and it could die at any time because of battery. I'm just kidding. EOTech, you're great. I have a ton of those sights. So my sighting system is great. I don't have any risers. I go nose to charging handle like a lunatic. It's cool. Fits me well. I'm using that folding thin stock with hockey tape wrapped around the cheek thing. Feels good to me right now, at least. Now that little stock, shooting supers all day with that. I had bruising on my body from it. That happens to me when I shoot a lot. I don't know. It didn't hurt me at all, but I'm just telling you, like it's not exactly like a comfortable thing for high volume super shooting, but it's a little PDW. So there you go. Maybe one thing that I'm thinking of doing for heat management, which is one thing I want to change or chase with this for myself. You don't have to, but for me, the first step I'm going to try, and I know this might be blasphemy to some of you, is I'm going to try the 9-inch barrel in my gun instead of the 6.75 inch. I have no idea what the dwell time increase is going to do, but I have a guess. I also don't know the port sizing of the 9-inch gun, so I'll let you know when I'm going to find out because I bought one, or I ordered one from SIG. We'll see if it comes in. By putting the 9-inch barrel on the gun, what that will do, I do know, is it is going to put my silencer 2¼ inches further forward in the SD handguard. So if that gets me where I want to be as far as radiant heat balance with grip area, great. My backup plan for that barrel is I can just buy the handguard that goes with that barrel, and then I will just have a normal gun with no tucked handguard. I will still be able to grip further forward than the 6.75 inch standard barrel standard handguard. And maybe I'll just stop there, and maybe I'll end up with a 9-inch 300 blackout gun, and maybe that'll be fine. I don't know. It'll give me some more velocity with supers. I mean, I don't think there's a big difference from the 6.75 inch barrel, but I'll let you know how it goes. I don't know. I prefer to keep the 6.75 inch because of the overall length, but I don't know. I mean, some people say, well, use rail scales. I'm like, will that work? Some people say, well, use a burn-proof gear rail wrap. And they called me, they talked to me, and maybe I could try that, but I know that's going to just like trap heat and eventually have heat soak. Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I should, but do I want to put a bra on my gun? I don't know. Maybe I do. I don't know. My final thoughts on this, is this going to replace my 5.56 guns for what I normally shoot? Maybe. One thing I really like about the platform is I like the versatility. If I need to go bigger, I just go to my SCAR. So, 5.56 is fun because there's no recoil, but 300 blackout's fun because you can do more than 5.56 can do, and then you can be quiet with subsonic in the same gun. And I just think that's neat. I don't know why it's taking me so long to embrace that. Maybe because I couldn't find a platform I wanted. I don't know. Those are my thoughts for now, okay? It's a neat gun. Looking forward to messing with it more. I am very confident in its reliability, which is always great for a gun you want to shoot. Yeah? I think people who make apologies for gun malfunctions are weird. Some people say, well, it doesn't like this, but I like that. No. If I have malfunctions with the gun I'm going to use, I often don't. I stop using it. I don't because I can't trust it. That's my personal thought. It doesn't have to be your opinion, but that's mine. Okay. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope this episode was informative, and I would ask that you stay safe, have fun, go shooting, drink and be merry. I will talk with you folks again soon. Okay. Bye.